Hey guys, I decided to do a little video for newcomers so they had some sort of way to orient themselves to the whole Telegram chat channel and getting some help on the legal front with the people who are doing it pro se. Pro se means you're doing it without a lawyer, who we often call liars on these channels. There's a couple channels, and you're probably on one of them if you're seeing this video. But it's just a way to orient you a bit, so it could be pretty overwhelming. Um, as I'm guessing you're on Telegram, you got this thing seeing Telegram, and so I just wanted to quickly go over how Telegram works briefly. So if you know how Telegram works, maybe queue up a couple of minutes into this video. Let's see here, screen share, boom, Telegram, share. Okay, so like once you get to Telegram, there's a couple groups, that the legal groups. There's Alphonse's group, there's the Law Society group, there's the Mask Law Society group. For those of you taking jurisdictionary, there's How to Win in Court group, and so on. So anyway, what you do is, of course, you're already on Telegram. That part we already established, and um, you're gonna want to post your question. So you post your question down here. How do you do? How do you do? Blah, and then of course you click that, pops up. I'm gonna delete that so it doesn't confuse people. So anyway, once you post it, you'll get an answer. Hopefully, you get an answer, and then you'll see a little. I think it's a blue or a green number here, and if you click that on at any time, it'll bring you straight to your question, your answer, the answer to your question. Hopefully, now when you can look through the stream like this, and when you see, you can scroll up and see all the different posts. And if you see a question here or comment that you want to ask a question on or reply to, you click this reply. And then you answer your question here. And then again, it comes up. And if you want to get back to the original question that you replied to, you click on this part up above. And then if you want to see what the question is for the context of the question that this person asked, you could click on that thing up above. And here again, you go up above and you get to see all these different things. If you want to go back, you're reading and you're like, oh, what was the original answer? You click this downward arrow and it brings you to that previous post that you were on. And downward arrow brings you to the next one. And then if there's no next one, it brings you to the final one. Then again, delete this thing so they don't get confused why I answered with a period. So that's the basics. If you want to look for files and stuff, you're going to click the title up here and you're going to see you can click on the files or the videos or the photos. You probably want to click on the files and be like, well, I have traffic issues. So let me type in traffic. Traffic. Ah, okay. Okay. And then there's all these, what do you call, files here. And you can go through it and click one and plagiarize if you want. You should plagiarize if it's looking convincing and good, because in the legal world we encourage a lot of plagiarizing, especially if it's one that did really good in court cases. So anyway, you just click it like that, and then it's like, and then you save it to your computer, you open it, and blah blah blah. You know the rest, or you should. So that's how Telegram works. If you want to know more about Telegram, just go on Google and on YouTube, and I'm sure there's plenty there. So The main focus of this video, of course, is just to get you oriented into the whole legal world, at least this legal world here. And so, you know, that's how you can start to find stuff. And then it also has a search function here where you could type in any subject you want. And, you know, like, again, if yours is about traffic, you just type in traffic here, and then all the different posts come up around traffic. And so you can start orienting yourself that way. When you see a post like this one, and you like what they say, again, just click reply, and then start asking questions. That's how you're going to learn. Ask a lot of questions. No question is dumb. Now, when I first came here, I was completely lost, and it could be very, very overwhelming. So that's why I'm trying to make this video. Let's see here. Oh, one other trick, which is that, you know, you're going through these posts and you're like, oh, I really like this post, but what are you going to do? You're going to kind of have to save each post outside of Telegram. What I do is if I like a post, say like this one here, you can right click your mouse and I forward it to a place called saved messages. When you put it on saved messages, you'll plop it right onto the section. And once you got saved messages, you have basically all these messages that you can kind of go by later. And that way you don't lose track of things that are really important. All right, so now we're going to get to the whole how to approach this if I were you. So most of you, if you've come here, you've either gotten in trouble or you've been completely shocked by how fascist Americans can be when they get scared of an imaginary virus and start telling people to wear face diapers and get genetic experiments, or they're going to fire you and crazy shit like that. Um, so that's one way. And then some of you got traffic tickets and you were trying to fight them. Others have, you know, had your rights criminalized. And there's many things that are going to bring you here. You're not going to find some instant solution to anything, but every little bit of information is going to make it more likely that you're going to do better in court. And so now the other thing is, for some of us, we just have a general idea that we're here, we know something's wrong, and we want to start kind of pushing back on a lot of this crazy fascist type communistic government stuff that's been happening. And you're going to have several possible issues to pursue. One issue is, you know, like I find there are kind of three main categories that people go after. They're dealing with a criminal thing, or they've been, you know, they had one of their rights criminalized, like, you know, they went into a store without a mask and suddenly they're now got a trespass charge, or they, you know, owned some guns and suddenly they were stopped and so, you know, now they're charged with God only knows what, all sorts of stuff. So that's that criminal angle. That criminal angle, I find that the best person for something like that, where you've had your rights criminalized, is Randy's channel. And that the two channels are the Mask Law Society and the Law Society. And I really find Randy to be most reliable for stuff like that. He's probably the most experienced, level-headed. He's a really old guy, but he's still sharp. Sorry, Randy. We're always teasing him about his age. So he's teasing himself mostly. But and then if it comes to property taxes, you want Alphonse Fagioli's channel, I would say, because that's where his main battle is, and he's talking a lot about how to fight property taxes, and some of the other property right issues. That's his main focus. So I would stick to his stuff for stuff like that. And again, there's crossover, so you can go back and forth on the channels and ask. If you're trying to fight the pharma fascists, Fauci Kool-Aid type stuff, I would go to Mask Law Society. for starters, and post any issues there around, your working rights and not having to take genetic experiments just to go work at Walmart or something crazy. Um, and the Law Society is also a good place. So sometimes I post on multiple places just to get different perspectives. But that is the underlying thing. Um, there's a lot of opinions out there, and some are good, some are bad. So I would trust more the ones that are admin people more than the other ones. The other ones I would not say don't trust, but I'd say, verify stuff. And if you have any doubts, repost the advice you got and be like, hey, folks, this is sound right, and try and get some second opinions. Um, uh, Randy and Brett, who Brett I think goes by Be Free, and and whoever's an admin, I think is generally really pretty well informed. So there's that. A guy called Dave Marland. There's mentions of him. He focuses a lot on the IRS stuff, so fighting IRS taxes and stuff like that. He seems to be that's his main focus. So that's something to consider when you're talking about taxes. I think the last spelling is Myland, Dave Myland or something like that. Or there may be an R in there. Just ask on the channels and people could tell you. So the next thing you got to consider is what is your nature? Can you take a lot of stress? Can you take are you know do you have money to spare if things get hard? If the pleadings to cost money, the court fees cost money. Um, it creates stress. Some people really push it hard and end up being in jail for a day or two or three. Is that too stressful for you? Those are things that you really should probably assess beforehand. I know of a guy who, heard a couple things, and although maybe it was legally right that he had the right to travel without a license, and that he, in theory, thought that he didn't really need to stop if the cop had his sirens on, which I thought was a little excessive, was doing that. And for a while, at least a month or two, he was getting away with it. And then next thing you know, they pulled him over, pulled him out of his car, charged him with, I think, two misdemeanors and a possible felony. I can't what they, I don't know what they cooked up, but all I'm saying is, and then he, just because he took a little bit of advice from somebody, he's now in a tricky situation where, he's got to go to court. He's clueless how to defend himself. He heard a couple things. He tried it. It didn't work. And now he got railroaded in court a bit. And now he's, I think, way over his head, and he's lost a lot of assets and get nice to sleep. So all I'm saying is, um, don't get cocky overnight. The people on this channel, some of them have been doing this for years. And so my advice to you is don't just like hear a couple things and then just go out and do it. Like, I think that's foolhardy. Like, really spend a couple months at least learning about this stuff before you try anything, and move into it slowly. And also, again, pick your battle. If you drive, um, well, I guess I should get off this channel so you can see my ugly face. Um, if you, let's see here, where was I? Like, if you're, if you make a living, say, driving, a bus or a truck or whatever, is it worth pushing your luck with the whole driving without a license thing, and not registering your car or something like that? Is it worth it? I don't know. I mean, that's up to you. Like, if you feel strong enough, sure. But if somehow you just don't have enough information and knowledge to fight it in court, and you end up losing your license or your job, or you use license, and in some way that means you lose your job and you lose your livelihood, and now you can't have time to study this stuff. Um, I personally think that's not a wise thing. So, um, yeah, so each to his own. A lot of these people have their income situation pretty well settled. Some people are retired, and so they got more time, they got more resources. So, um, tread lightly. You are dealing with a bit of a mean tiger, and um, once you know how to handle it, you can tap, like Randy seems to tap dance around them and cause them a lot of headaches very easily. But I, I, I think it's unwise telling somebody who's just getting into this to like, oh, go ahead and do that. Like learn your stuff first. And I think that brings me to the next point, which is this to me. I've been in this for about a year now, so by no means am I giving you any sort of expert opinions. But I am giving you a little bit of wisdom I've acquired and what I've seen happen to people over the last year, who've taken shit advice or have taken advice that was maybe decent, that they were told the truth, like, well, you do have a right to travel without a license, but they weren't ready to properly defend that truth, and it probably wasn't worth the freaking $30 of license fees and another $60 registration. And if you're the kind that gets pulled over, which I've never been pulled over in 30 years for any sort of speeding infraction, is it worth $100, $200 speeding ticket? That's up to you to figure out. Again, once you have a good command of it, it probably is because you know how to fight it and it's not going to touch you. So, finally, I'd like to get into this whole point of, hold on one second here. Let's pause this recording. Pause recording. So finally, last but not least, I've been about a year into this, and I've come to realize, at least my perspective on it is, I speak about, well, two or three languages, dabbled in a couple more. And learning this stuff is very similar to learning a language. And when you first learn a language, it sucks. You don't know what anything is. Everything's confusing. Oh, you don't know any of the words. The grammar is all over the place. It just feels very overwhelming. And to learn the language, you got to put some energy into grammar. And grammar is like, as far as I'm concerned, it's like eating dry toast without butter. And then you got to memorize some vocabulary words because this legal land has its set of vocabulary words. Probably not many, probably about, I don't know, 100, 200 main ones. And then you got to take that, right, and put it together and to learn how to put it in a way where it's just understood in that language, in that world. Um, and you know, if you try to learn language and it took you a year or two, and after doing that, you couldn't really speak it well. But I think after about a year or two of doing this, you could speak it pretty well. And my take on it is this: if you learn a language like, I don't know, Spanish, German, yeah, it's a useful tool, and it can connect you with people, maybe get your job. But consider that this is a language you learn so you can keep your freedom and you can keep your rights, right? And the only other way to try and keep your rights is probably, like people are kind of talking about, where they're going to fight for the rights, is they're going to use, try and use bullets and guns, and that probably won't end well. especially if you're outgunned, which you are against an abusive government. And it's like that's as much as people pound their chest and whatever. It's any common sense person will probably that's something you want to probably avoid until you're desperate last ditch effort. And so see it like that you're spending time learning this language, and it's a language you should have learned. It's probably the first language other than English, um, or your first language you should have learned, because without freedom and without your inalienable rights, your life's gonna suck. It's gonna be like you're living in China or Iran or all these places where you don't have rights, you don't have due process, and even if you do have constitutional rights, you don't have them if you can't protect them, and you can't protect them if you don't know how to speak law. You just can't, because the only way to protect them is one, evoking them. But if they're just like, yeah, I don't care, and they throw you in the slammer, well, the only other thing you can do is uh, go to court and be compensated for it. And there's really one more thing I'll just kind of little segue is there's two aspects of this. There's the criminal aspect and there's the civil aspect. So criminally, the only way you're generally going to deal with criminal for the most part is if you're charged criminally and you're a defendant. On a civil level, it's more like, hey, I've been hurt, somebody's committed a crime here, a government person's committed a crime, but I want to be compensated. The only way you'll be compensated is through money, unfortunately. Like, so you can't be like, hey, I want them to be beat and all this or whatever. That happens criminally, but it's not like I mean, they go to jail, right? And maybe they get beat up in jail, but is right. Your only personal recourse is civil when it comes to being compensated for your pain and damage, even if that person, this other side, committed a crime. And generally, they've committed a crime that may be civil, which would be, say, a breach of contract, where um, like your job fired you because you didn't want a genetic experiment, or um, where they attacked you and beat you and something like that and hurt you, which would be a criminal crime versus a civil crime. So, so that's something you need to understand too, is that you will only be able to pursue a civil suit against somebody. And um, and then generally speaking, if the government's coming after you, usually it's going to be a criminal suit. There are some cases where it's more civil oriented, where they're coming at you in a civil manner, like when it's something against your land or something like that. Sometimes they have this thing called quasi criminal, which is total BS, and we got to do something about that, because that's again um, the abusive law, for lack of a better word. It's either going to be criminal or civil, and they're trying to come up with this little BS category so that they can get away, extort you without being bounded by the laws and the rules that are there. Finally, to really get established in this, there's a couple things you should do. You should definitely get the jurisdictionary course, and there's a referral link. You're encouraged to use the referral links that the admins of the chats use, because they get compensated some money for it, and they're spending hours and hours helping out people, so they deserve a little, cut of the pie, so to speak, for you taking the jurisdictionary class. I think it's like 250 or something like that. It is well worth it. Um, and it's for a year subscription, so learn it within a year. I don't think you need to continue it. Some people do. I don't think I am, but at least get that under your belt, because that's, you're learning the structure of how something works. It's almost like learning how the roadways work and road laws work so that you can drive your car somewhere, right? And then I would study the criminal procedure laws of your state and the civil procedure laws of your state. Um, and then they also have what's called the criminal rules of procedure, criminal procedure rules, criminal procedure rules, and civil procedure rules, which are kind of like a shortened version that the courts officially use. Um, again, that's really dry stuff, but until you learn that stuff, if you ever have to really go somewhere with anything, if you don't know those foundational things, all this other information that's coming in seems really inspiring and kind of sexy and interesting, but it's, if you don't have that foundational stuff there, all this other stuff that's like really more jazzy and, check out this court case we won and check out that court case we won, it's probably not going to be utilizable for you. So you're going to have to put a little time into it. Um, don't be disenchanted, I feel, again, because even if you learn part of this or some part of it, some knowledge is better than none. And even just knowing a couple things, it's going to make your life better. Some people just work with affidavits and they send them in to their company, and the company takes them serious enough that they get what they want and they don't have to do any of this other stuff. So again, each person needs to figure out their own battle. And I wish you luck. Ask as many questions as you can on those groups and keep learning. And it's not going to happen overnight, but even after, I think, a month or two or three, you're going to have a lot more rights secured than you would have beforehand. Um, I know, in closing, I haven't had a case yet or whatever, but just by changing my mindset of learning this stuff, I feel I saved myself easily, I don't know, like $400 or $500 a year just in the whole property tax stuff. Not because I got my property taxes all enough, but I knew a process. I got into a mindset where just because the government says they've decided something doesn't mean it's legit or true, and they have to back it up. And me, just by questioning how they decided they were going to hike up my taxes, um, you know, allowed me to kind of really create a good sequential way of just saying, hey, hold on here, like, who says that, and they just said, oh yeah, okay, fine, and they dropped it. Mine's really low, it's a couple $100 a month, but they were going to jack it up from 200 a year to like 900 a year, something crazy like that, and I got them back down to 300. So to me, that in itself was well worth the time, and that was just some small thing, and I feel a lot more confident that I'm not just going to put myself over a cliff like so many people do. So anyway, I could go on, but this was just kind of a general introduction. Just keep learning, keep asking questions, and you'll find the niche and the place you need to be. Good luck, and I'm glad you're fighting for our inalienable rights.